to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. First on the agenda is our consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Moved and seconded. There was one thing added to this morning's. It was travel for Kim Dillon, planner 2, to attend FEMA training in Baltimore, Maryland, August 29th, September 3rd. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up we have, as soon as he gets here. Coming on in.
Committee.
Planner 2, Kim Dillon, Plano Minor Subdivision Final Plat Review. Good morning, Kim. Good morning, Patty.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, thank you, commissioners. Good morning. This is Flame's first, right?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is the final plat review of Flino. The zoning district where this is located is GR5, the planning area is Sage Creek. We did get a final plat application for the subdivision in February. Payment in the final plat then was received on July 6th, and then we received a revised final plat on July 14th, and I believe all of you had a chance to see that. The requested action is approval. It's a 4-lot minor subdivision. One lot will be 8.05 acres. One lot will be 9.18 acres. One lot will be 11.72 acres, and one lot 8.39 or 37 acres, all for residential use. In terms of ownership, the ownership is What's Left LLC, which is a limited liability company from Wyoming. You see on page 2 a copy of the last final plat. In terms of location, this subdivision is along County Road 3EX. It's about 2.25 miles east of Cody, about a half mile north of Highway 146020. I mentioned this is in the GR5 zoning district. These lot sizes as proposed are consistent with that. In terms of neighboring land use, figure 3, it shows that there are some residential uses around, some agricultural uses around, and residential vacant uses in the vicinity. This property, in terms of characteristics of the site, it does slope downward from east to west. It's currently vacant. Lots 2 and 4 have steep slopes to the north and east, and the Cody Canal runs through a portion of each of these 4 proposed lots. This property is not within a mile of Cody. Municipal review is not required. Of course, this is a final plat, so public hearing is not required. We've not received any public comments in regard to this. The county commissioners, all of you reviewed this back in September of 2020 and approved the sketch plan. You had conditions. We have those conditions again listed. That's on page 5 of our staff report. Number 2 talks about approved subdivision improvements agreement. That's been met. Number 3 talks about that on the final plan, engineered small wastewater systems may be required due to slow perk. That is on the final plat that was submitted on July 14th. Number 4, that the applicant must submit a water distribution plan to Cody Canal for their review and recommendations. That condition has been met. And the long-term noxious weed management plan has to be approved. That condition has been met. Of course, you did see the final plat. The plat review committee did review the initial submission on February 25th of this year. Then corrections were noted, changes were identified. As like I said, we did get a final plat on July 6th and then a new one on July 14th. On page 6, it talks about the subdivision improvements agreement that was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on February 16th of this year. All these conditions have been met. I'll just briefly talk about those. Road and drainage plan, that's been met. Road was installed and completed to public works standard. Weed management plan has been approved. Water distribution plan has been approved by Cody Canal. Black Hills Energy confirms that gas has been installed. Rocky Mountain Power has confirmed that electricity has been installed, and Northwest Water District, water service infrastructure has been completed. Of course, on the bottom of page 6, we have a paragraph stating what's required for final plat review. Mr. Chairman, we have some findings we've identified, and we recommend just 2 conditions should you decide to approve this.
Mr. Chairman, one of the conditions listed has to do with that small wastewater being on the plat, so that condition is no longer necessary.
The Commissioner Overfield, yes, so number 1, yeah, that condition is no longer needed because that is on the plat, that condition.
Any questions? Any staff? Pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve 9-0 minor subdivision plat as presented.
Moving seconded, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All righty.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
2021-45.
All right, thank you.
So we'll just move right into the next one since you're here and everyone's here.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So up next for your consideration is another final plat review. This is for Sandstone Ridge. This is also a minor subdivision. And as you know, it's just located just south of the subdivision you just approved. However, this property is in the RR2 zoning district. The planning area is still Sage Creek. We did receive a final plat for this subdivision in February this year. We did receive the final plat application, including payment. That was, and the final plat that came on July 6th. Again, a revised final plat for this came on July 14th. Here, the applicant requests approval of a 5-lot minor. One lot will be 14.16 acres, and I had 14.17 in the staff report. Should be 14.16. One lot will be 11.76. One lot will be 10.70 acres. One lot will be 11.52 acres, and one lot will be 9.95 acres, all for residential use. Ownership is Big Plains Partnership. Again, this is an LLC. Location, it's shown in figure 2. It's again located along County Road 3X. It's approximately 2.25 miles east of Cody, a half mile north of the highway. Again, I mentioned this is in the zoning district RO2. The lot sizes as proposed are consistent with that zoning district. Neighboring land uses similar to what Flying O was, surrounded by some agricultural land, otherwise surrounded by residential vacant land. This subdivision also is not within a mile of the city of Cody, so municipal review is not required. Public hearing is not required. We've not received any public comments. The county commissioners reviewed the sketch plan on September 1st of last year, had conditions. Again, one of the conditions, like with Flying O, subdivision improvements agreement need to be approved. That condition has been met. There was also a condition that on the final plat, engineered small wastewater systems might be required. That condition has been met. That is on the latest version of the plat. Water distribution plan has been sent to Cody Canal. Long-term noxious weed management plan has been approved. We have received copies of the final plat. This final plat review committee met on February 25th. Corrections, changes were identified again. We did receive the newest version on July 6th and then another version on July 14th. I mentioned the subdivision improvements agreement. I won't read those conditions, Mr. Chairman. You saw those on listed on page 6. They've all been met, and we attached those for your review. We have findings, we have conditions. Again, our condition, or we recommend that the first condition be stricken because that has been met. and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Question?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Gonna keep you busy, aren't they?
Is it stimulus? You know, just in this place.
Let me just take a chair.
We can't do anything
All right.
unless we move on to.
We got half an hour. What would we got?
Sorry.
Guys, you just quit.
Efficiency.
Efficient, well,
downside.
machine.
Well,
Yeah, while you're there, don't go very far.
Yesterday, I asked a couple questions of staff about the noxious weed plants and, I guess I felt like there was some sort of a disconnect between the noxious weed plant and the plat, because it isn't mentioned on the plat, but yet it's required to be done on some of the subdivisions. That's the finding of weed and pest. But I didn't find how it tied together, so I went in and talked to Patty and Kim, and it is tied to the developer, to where if the subdivision or a lot in the subdivision is vacant, then they have to take care of the weeds for up to 5 years, mowing, spraying, anything that the plan mentions. What it doesn't tie to is lot buyers. And so I asked that question yesterday afternoon, and we were discussing it, that if it's adopted by the homeowners association, then yes, it would be part of what has to be done by the buyers. My question is, if it's not part of the homeowners association, what happens? Then the developer has to keep the one lot that's not built on weed-free and the rest of them can do whatever they want? Or how does that, I guess that's my question, how does that work? It's supposed to be a 5-year plan.
yeah, I don't know anything more than what you, yeah. And it's something we could probably talk to Mary
Have a
to
conversation
get
with
her
everybody.
insight.
I spoke to Josh over there about
Oh,
it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't get ahold of Mary, she was
Okay.
out in the field. And that's what he said. He said it just is to the developer, and then it's your own private property, and unless it's in the HOA, they don't have to.
so once the lot gets sold and it's not the HOA, it essentially goes away.
Okay, and we have,
Mr. Chairman. Well, Dusty, I raised that question in the past because of more and more land is subdivided. Weeds do become a big issue.
that's what,
We get a lot of people moving out of here and we have a weed plan in place, but they have no idea how to irrigate, they don't know how to run a sprayer, they don't know what to use in place enough for weed. I'm not sure the weed and pest will admit it, but their big problem is they don't have the personnel to enforce it. And that's where the problem really comes from.
but if, this is just a question, but along with the other things that are on the plat, like the slow perk rates or something, if there is a weed plan that has to happen, can it be on the plat, just so that the landowner's aware that there is a weed issue and helpful to follow? And if there is a problem with the landowner, something for them to go back on with other owners, not the county, because we don't deal with that.
Well, personally, I think in most cases, with weed and pest, if they had the ability to go out to these people that buy these subdivisions and say, you need to keep your place up.
Mhm.
The people willingly would probably do it, but they just don't have the manpower to get the job done.
This seems like a little bit of a disconnect.
Mr. Chairman, also on that, if we've started trying to implement on the final plats, even a note that says weed plan recorded on such and such a date, and other documents that have to be recorded with the plat, just so that those required documents that get recorded with the plat, or at least acknowledged on the plat that they were with it, that might help.
Yeah, I think
And,
that.
we're trying to get that, so it's taking some time to get in the habit, but we're trying.
Okay, thanks.
We got a public hearing at 10:15, so. Don't see anything else. No, it's all public hearing.
Public hearings just screw up the whole thing.
Yeah, can we quit doing those?
It all depends when we play, still, next time there's. Things that already be on the website, but now. Yeah.
You're in town?
Oh.
I said, like, you know, can we stay?
Yeah.
So we're gonna. Would you, would they go in there?
They don't understand about weeds. And they just like go
Complicate
farm
matters.
sale and there's no supervision. So I think things like that need to be done. When they buy, they have to maintain some physical needs. So where you live now, was that part of this property? No, I live in town now. Oh, okay, but that was my home before my house. Oh. Yeah, that's really special piece of property. Yeah.
And there's the one you're talking about, the culverts and ditches that the cabins
Kind of sad.
can have in place.
Can't stop progress.
And they could just came out with some more recommendations on the water and sewer.
That those are possible.
Oh my gosh.
Very possible.
I think, in my mind, we need the work session on the lagoons first.
Yeah.
So we know.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
maybe Ben put that together and we can get that as well.
If he knows of a couple of them that we actually
Yeah.
know we're gonna have to do, yeah.
And it just says here that specifically in the western counties, local leaders are, are interested in using recovery funds to upgrade damaged culverts to reduce further damage.
Right,
after
because our
fires
zip code
or
is
water,
So a lot of people.
water problems. Counties recommend increases of maintenance of road, side ditches, culverts, and other county-owned infrastructure projects as eligible.
You think I can find one to fit?
That might come through on
No
that if it ever gets passed, right, the structure bill. We seem to know what the lagoons are gonna
More.
Yeah.
theoretically cost before we know how much
That
money.
is something that you guys definitely need to think about.
And by the, and
Oh, we've got a year and a
town
half
not being able to find any help.
figure that out.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, if they know the size of
Something
it,
that
at least
people
gotta
to
do
work
it.
for me,
They also
and they'll
said
work
our
for just a
dams,
little while and then they go away.
repairs to our, if we have dams,
So, yeah.
can also be used for that.
Well, I think the only one we looked at was that Rome Gulch, and they did that work if it was. And some of that might be a.
Sign of the time.
So those were two new ones on there that I hadn't seen before.
We keep adding to it as we're trying to work through it.
Where are you on this?
Yeah, yeah. We better do something with it, right?
Sounds like it.
That one on the courthouse went down yesterday, it's like 4 o'clock, Paul and I was rolling through our offices.
It's down right now.
Oh, they just
It
talked
was
about
so hot.
No, we can talk
I
about
said,
this.
Paul, I said, you know, our air brush, she goes, no, just step in the
So
hallway.
this is you here.
Yeah.
Where are your storage?
Oh, here's Carl.
In Clark.
Colleen said it was down when she came up.
That's me. People need
Is your office hot?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do this.
75 degrees
Go through
already.
all these hoops.
I went over to
It's
the
taking
public
forever,
works yesterday,
so
dropped
I'm
these people off.
going to follow through, but I don't know.
See, that's where we were about, what's that, about a month ago,
Yeah.
that Friday afternoon, I mean, it just kept getting hotter and hotter, so I'm sure it'll be that by today, by today.
Boy, we
Yeah,
could feel it.
Unless it's, unless it's.
Stairway.
It's moving.
Mike said he had one.
Yeah.
And the other Mike on the road story.
Oh, I saw that building.
It is, no, high in townhouses.
Oh,
Do you see a lot of cotton stuff around here?
It looks nice.
Why residential?
I know it might be able to get a bunch of kids.
I mean, this.
I don't really see that much flying, and
Yeah.
if it is, it's earlier, way earlier than now.
It's
Yeah.
really early.
Residential,
Like,
you know,
first
along
of June.
there.
And the May, yeah,
Yeah, I was.
of course, it
shocked.
turned warmer a lot quicker
And
this
so
year
here we
too.
have residential.
So maybe that was why.
Added to build.
It seemed to have flown earlier than
Retail
later.
around it.
I was
It seems
surprised.
like you were
Is that
very
early?
farsighted. across from the Irma, those little penthouses. You see them up on top of them. You remember Juniper Wine and Spirits?
Right.
Those two buildings, they have these little penthouses.
Didn't even notice.
One is owned by a couple in Geneva.
Oh, wow.
So we have.
Well, when they say high question,
Right now, Wyoming.
Million.
Millions.
so you're buying them, you're not
You can
renting
buy
them.
it,
Oh,
Like,
but it's high end.
Oh,
And then they sell it because these people come here.
Yeah.
On
look the same
vacation.
as the Wyoming garbage license. It says concealed carry.
oh, really?
You know, the Agenda 21 was to get people from living in apartments and
Problem,
living
my guess
in
is,
urban
some
areas.
form of law enforcement.
They wanted to consolidate
Cause you know, you have to
living
pass class.
in the
Right, before you
in
know, but I just know
Cody.
it's true that.
Get it concealed carry.
Houses.
Yeah, right, it's great issues. I don't know. I'm gonna
You
say
have the land free from
law,
wetland.
maybe high, I mean,
Corridor
Wyoming law
Mexico
enforcement,
last
like what would that be? Highway department?
No, I haven't heard of that one yet.
Cause you know, then you get into individual counties. So I don't know.
Well,
Okay,
if
that's
the
living
highway
in-
Or
department-
maybe the
Close
Wyoming driver's
proximity and
license
then the
does
rest
it
will be
with
wild.
the help
Get rid of all, I was gonna say, if this is
Get
your
rid
guy
of all
agency that's
agriculture.
similar to Light who does
They
your
won't
driver's
be eating
license, there's probably not a
soybean
whole lot of difference
burgers.
in them. If they're a picture ID with that type of enforcement behind it.
How are
It's
you?
funny, it didn't come up earlier than now.
Well, I think people just didn't realize it was another. So how are you doing health-wise?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Wait.
Aren't we all?
You know, kind of not.
And every day I think, today I'll start up like that. You know, things, all the salads and the
I wondered about
vegetables.
that.
That's what I mean, they have
It does
no brains.
very exciting.
No
And
brains.
the wine I can't drink.
My son's getting married in September, and I last June.
No, it's a little paper card, it's not even
Now
laminated,
it's almost August.
from what I understand. I
We
was-
better challenge each
Yeah.
other. My grandson's
No,
getting
I
married in
think-
September.
Oh, really? When
On the
is it?
25th.
Official photo, like, and like I said, to me, that,
California.
that
Near
is more about
California, so you'll be going out.
Yeah. In Lake Tahoe, it's not,
I used to live in like,
oh, really?
in Plain
Not
Village.
just something you can make.
Oh,
Well, I'm not real familiar.
Right.
Yeah, officially agents. Yeah.
And how do we
I'm
know
gonna go up
Medicare
for
card
like
is
a
legal?
week or.
We fought that
When I
one a lot.
married my second husband, we lived in Sun Valley.
Do you guys have?
That got too expensive for us. You know, the rich and famous started moving in, building big houses, tax base started increasing.
Probably
So
all
we
day.
moved
Sounds
to,
like here.
Well, depending on what they have,
in
what the
Plain Village,
timeframes
our
are
darling
on
one.
It says meetings on
Taxes
Wednesday.
started
was
going
for
up,
Kelly's.
up.
Okay, so
we
there will
couldn't
be
afford
all
that.
day Wednesday probably,
Same
and
thing's
then,
happening to Cody.
until we
Yeah.
disband on
And
Thursday.
Clark.
And the sad thing is that people who are
Because of
working
course,
class
right now,
won't be able to afford to live in Cody. They'll have to live in the,
see, and by then, everybody
Outer
will be done with their primaries, so.
Oh, yeah.
because they won't be able to afford property in Cody. So.
Oh, yeah, we've got counties that have
Need
special,
the working class
special
to
elections.
support their needs.
We're fortunate here, we don't.
Like San
Very
Diego,
often.
every morning you'd see long lines coming from Haley into Ketchum. And then in the evenings, long lines going out. They all lived on the perimeter of Barbara Streisand and Clint Eastwood and everybody else. They see a beautiful area, they move in, take it. That's what's gonna happen here. It's already happening. My house is too big for me, I can't afford to sell it, I need something else to live in.
Did your friend from Hawaii come home?
Oh, those,
Yeah.
Xander, you met Xander?
Yeah.
How did you meet
At
Xander? Oh, at the boys barbecue. They are characters, yes, they're staying with me, they couldn't find a place to rent, on short term,
Conservation.
cause they're really
They
gonna
had,
be in
they
Cody
had
6
presented
months.
to us.
They couldn't
all
find a
this,
rental,
But the city
Because-
so Robin Berry called. she said, "Kelly,
Yeah. And, or, you know, they
Taking
can
one, you know,
do
for
it
sure.
by May.
my house is
They
still
can
in
say
the
more
L,
heartache if they
so
want it.
one portion of
And
it
it'd
isn't
still be
even
on this
used.
ballot.
And it's,
But they can do it
Sure.
before May, or
They
right
get a
around
ride.
May.
But you wouldn't.
She is absolutely adorable.
Are they still here?
Yes.
Oh, well, good. They're here until the last of July.
And then I would say the sooner
And
you
then
can
go
get, I
on,
mean, you
you're
wanna
very
make sure
away.
that you're on the
But
agenda
they've been busy.
for the first meeting in
You're
August of 2022.
evangelizing everyone.
Right, okay.
So I would tell them to
Yeah,
put
it's
it on
been a
there
lot
right
of
now.
company, because I live alone.
I'll go to the board meeting on Thursday
I
and
don't
then
like being.
have them have the discussion.
Yeah.
That's the
So
way they're
she's
meeting,
just
but I
really
wanted
sweet.
to-
She was helping me weed
There's been some
yesterday. in the
misinformation on
garden.
how soon it had to happen.
And
Yeah,
she's a
and
very
because,
good-
and of course, the dates would be different if they wanted it on the primary ballot. They don't want it on the
We have
primary.
coffee
We try to,
morning
you
together.
know,
And I don't think the entities wanted on the project.
Yeah.
Because there's been a voting base on that.
and then on
Good
that
agenda.
is that gonna just be a question for Powell residents? or is it
Yeah,
gonna
no,
be a-
we
You don't know, there hasn't been that much discussion yet, but I just needed a time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
He's,
Only
the wired.
Okay.
She's school energy. She's a
Resolution,
wired.
We haven't signed it yet.
no, I was just wondering, I'd never seen you spend that hours that you approved what the final draft was.
People get together like that.
We have two of them hanging out there. We have that one and the,
Collins variance. I thought that was that sign.
unless it was fair only, I don't think so.
Talk, discuss. I hope not.
I don't think we.
I hope not.
Well, I'm just thinking Sarah right now. That was the one she said to you guys last, and I didn't see anything on
Yeah,
Collins
they're both, they
variance.
both came out, not, yeah, we have them both on ours.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't think I've seen it, but maybe you can check it
Yeah,
out.
no, we haven't, I've just been waiting to see what you guys had thought of those.
Yeah, cause she had another question on Collins.
Yeah, so I hadn't seen that come through, but I know she sent the final draft on here, she updated it.
Okay.
Um,
Now you might ask me about, I don't know what these plan is.
Okay. Maybe he hasn't had a chance to read it yet.
What time did they start? 9:30.
Well, we schedule enough time in to do those subdivisions in case there's questions, but the next thing on the agenda is a public hearing, so we're not allowed to start that before the advertised time.
I see. Well, that makes
So,
sense.
We're kind of, every once in a while, we get
I'm a
stuck in.
cheater getting a nice long break.
Yeah, not intentionally,
No,
but,
it's not intentional.
and then other times, the room fills up and we didn't schedule enough time, so it's.
It was hit or miss.
Yeah, you just gotta guess at it. This time it didn't work. Oh, so you're going down Friday?
Unless I want to leave during the show.
2 in the morning, no, don't do that.
Where are you putting this? How are you, what's the configuration? So you need to have this one here going.
Could you find somebody to be your guide on the recent celebration?
I'd rather.
Our chairman is in here.
He says I'm chairman, you gotta do it.
Yeah, we're.
I had maybe 5 now, window.
That happens, especially that time of year.
Next year, I have, so I'm planning to start where the 7.
Oh.
And he says he wants to fly with 2 kilos.
Oh, wow.
I want to come in and have them on my wings, will just come in real low.
You should have that. This has got to be.
Yeah, yeah.
I should have made spoons when I should have brought it to the bank.
I just read whatever.
I don't really.
Did you write it?
Sometimes
Sometimes there's money, sometimes there's nothing.
You'd be stupid.
After the discussion.
Put it here in. I haven't. I never asked.
The money that was being dispersed, and then afterwards, the library got to use it.
You already have.
Not that I don't even remember. Just the ambulance, that's the only one we voted on. That's it, the ambulance is 30 pounds to garage house.
But you know,
Nothing said on the library.
it's just, you know, it's the same thing, whatever you do, you know, do stuff, you get out your face, you get.
the week before, we were going over the library's budget. And we did change that a little bit from added to the staff.
By me. You know, I mean, I don't.
And salaries thing, with county employees to put them on the same rate scale.
Well, I just try to be a good.
Yeah, it probably was.
Well, I was thinking with that building.
It had to do with the same, you know, we did the cost of living and the steps for the county employees and the library was asking for the same thing. So that's what we did.
I was just concerned about the configuration. And I have no objection to it because nobody really, they don't come over and ask for stuff.
And then you saw the list today for the air.
They just come in, they do their thing.
And this thought that they were discussing.
Oh, I know, yeah. Right, did you own that
You know,
line to it to the north? Yeah, or just all that?
This,
I wasn't
they
sure.
sent me,
I know where that
because
house
this
is.
one here is this one's a signature.
Oh.
It's made over.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't home, I was never home, and she put the tag on my door. And it blew off, and I was out there like, this yellow paper, and you know, this was yours, saying that you had to have a signature, so I just blew it off, and then all of a sudden I got it.
Well,
A week
yeah.
later.
There is, not in the property.
Right, this is something more down the highway.
Is wasteland.
I mean, this is how it's like in Illinois.
But it said rural, it said residential, so you have versus residential.
Well, no.
We've got to have to go.
Not at my house.
There's one little piece there, if you come over the hill, and there's a swell.
Yep.
And I was out at the great. Oh,
Oh, yeah, right across from my place.
She said it's gonna be.
she's thinking.
That's what I'm saying. That doesn't mean
Right on Fort Avenue.
You go into an evening of no, Joe?
I may.
So what it is, I was trying to figure out what the hell it was,
Yeah.
and I thought, it's down this big.
Oh, it is.
See, but I don't know how this.
So what
They
what
have to be.
the guy from the Wildlife Foundation, they're putting it on across the state. And it, basically, they're not gonna ask you for anything, supposedly puts their own in a mood to give.
Well, I got something really funny. I ran in out there a couple weeks ago. And I had a drink with
So I
it.
put corn.
I got two drinks with it.
The next day.
And I asked Bob, I said, Bob, I got the appreciate the invite. What is it? And he said, what invite? I said, well, it was
She had two.
notes. And he goes, I don't know anything
You know,
about
I don't
it.
know the rest, but she takes something that she.
Right.
wants to know, but
You're
she
open.
had a mess, and you can
Oh,
see
okay.
two duds.
That was it.
And she can't say.
Yeah, it's just, it's a fundraising.
Oh, I'm sure. They won't have a
There's
handout.
one that's got, she's got 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But they're pretty big already.
That lady wants
Because they were standing there.
Stop, take a rest.
No, these little guys.
With the reader.
So it's
She went to the picture.
She took them, but I don't know if she.
No, they like to hold lunch. She doesn't come down.
Well, they don't pay.
Teaches children all
Can
that.
you get a bigger? I'm not sure. This is what I, asked the question. So I don't know this whole process.
I use like, what do you say? Lanes of everywhere, all over the world. I use them for it's easy to predict our football season, Friday night, but baseball, you never. Yeah. Because it'll be.
The sour wine and the Holland resolutions that Joy had sent you guys to I can feedback for you guys on it.
We haven't had it for us to approve it. Well, I know it's on email, but
Okay, well, no, I haven't brought it before you, because you wanna make sure those drafts are what you want it.
I'll. Okay, well, then I guess we gotta look at them. I guess I misunderstood. I thought she just presented this was gonna. Put it in front of us. No, we already.
So
went through it.
I tried to bring in,
Yeah.
I don't know, we, you know, it's, there's never much time to, but I tried to bring in like the last,
Can you just forward those to us again real quick? Both of
you
them?
know, staff,
Yeah.
the last packet from the last meeting, whether it was with the commissioners or P and Z.
So if you have any questions, you can look
If
at
I can find it.
Good idea.
I tried to do that.
Awesome.
Colleen, can you have your office full of covenants for Cody Country subdivision when they get a chance?
Cody Country subdivision?
Yeah. North Fork on Greenhouse.
It's Cody's country,
Cody's, yeah.
Cody's country.
You own one, don't you?
No,
Did you get rid of it? Did you use someone one? I thought you guys owned
no,
one.
we have, they can't.
And you said the covenants?
Yes.
I just, rumor has, I think it's pretty implemented solar. They just sold like 1,100 square foot A-frame up there on a half acre for $450,000.
It's surprising.
Not surprising at all.
I forget where one came in the other day for 1.7 million, but I forget where it was at.
Not mine.
For seeing it, I mean, it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Like them to just email that to you or
That'd
to
be wonderful.
email to all commissioners?
Just me. Unless everyone else is very curious.
Ready for my-
My fingers got lost.
The fingers are still on vacation.
They are, but.
Your heart is here though, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely my heart is here.
You know it.
No, but I don't think it's our issue.
Well, no, you're
That's
right,
right.
you're right, no, it's civil. Well, we're planning 30 years ago.
Did that, so Cecil Lake, that's what I heard.
I'm surprised.
Red Star, you ever heard of Red Star? I know, I've heard of it. I'm trying to think of my. No, you could, summer trips or wherever you have
You don't
use.
have to have it.
Yeah. I mean, I have, it's different.
Morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
All right, next up on our agenda is public hearing for the joint commercial storage use permit for the King Park County Planner 2 Kimville. Dylan and Patty, are you?
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is, the request is for approval of the special use permit. The applicant is Pam Kimmett. The planning area where this property is located is in the Clark planning area. The zoning district is GR20. We did receive an application from Pam on May 3rd of this year, including payment, drawings, and location, vicinity map, and plan uses, and whether or not there'd be any impacts on adjacent properties. The requested action is approval of this SUP, which would allow an expansion of an existing permitted major home occupation, which is a 2,000 square foot public storage business structure. I think there are 10 units. The proposed expansion includes up to 10 additional storage containers. Each will measure 8 feet by 20 feet, and that will be an addition of 1,600 square feet. note we have here, it's our recommendation, Mr. Chairman, that we combine the existing major home occupation that Pam currently has with this SUP should it be approved. And so basically the existing 10-unit storage facility will be combined with these up to 10 storage containers for a total of 3,600 square feet, less than an acre. The reason for this is because if this SUP is approved, it will be 3 primary uses on a parcel, which our regs do not allow. And our understanding was because this major home occupation was approved in 2006, we can't speak for what the planners knew at the time, but we did at the time have a commercial storage definition. And our belief is that's how it should have been approved. It should have went through the SUP process. We do have a condition that says if you do approve this SUP, but if Pam decides not to go forward with the SUP, that major home occupation stays. And of course, our understanding is if you deny this SUP, her major home occupation stays. Okay, so anyhow, we've classified this as commercial storage. In the middle of page 1, we have a definition of that, a little bit of history. There's an existing residence on this parcel. It was built in approximately 2003. This building permit for this major home occupation for the current public storage was approved in 2006. And Ms. Kimmett met with our staff on April 26th of this year for a pre-application meeting to talk about the expansion. The location, this use will be located on the southwest corner of a just over 20-acre parcel. It has an address of 79 Road 8BC. It's in Clark. The proposed use is not within a mile of any municipality. I did mention the zoning district already, GR20. Commercial storage uses are permitted in GR20 provided an SUP is approved. In terms of neighboring land uses, you can see in figure 2. And Ms. Kimmett's property is I guess it's a triangle, surrounded by some subdivisions and essentially surrounded by residential. There is an agricultural piece to the west. The property is relatively flat. There is a residence, as I mentioned. There is the 10-unit commercial storage building located on the property. Ground cover is grasses and shrubs. There is a gravel drive, and site plan, figure 3 just is a topo map. Mr. Chairman, site plan on page 5 shows that existing building to the left, parking areas, and then the proposed up to 10 storage containers on the right. Legal notices. Of course, this is a public hearing. We did put notices in the Powell Tribune on June 29th and July 13th. Notice to neighboring property owners was mailed on June 24th. We shared this packet with you and with the applicant, and we put it on the website before today. We notified agencies that we thought might have an interest. The Powell Clarksville Conservation District, they reported 3 soil types. Park County Treasurer reported that taxes are paid in full. Game and Fish said they have no comments. Weed and Pest, Mary did an initial inspection, found no noxious weeds. And a long-term plan as a result will not be required. However, Mary encourages Ms. Kimmett to follow best management practices. Public Works made some comments. We shared those with you. They basically talked about access and any disturbances. We've not received any public comments, Mr. Chairman. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this on June 16th of this year. They recommended approval. They have just 3. They have 3 conditions, or had 3 conditions. One was a formal response from Public Works. That condition has been met. In terms of approval standards, because obviously this is an SUP, applicant said that there has been a significant increase in the request for storage units in the Clark area. She mentioned that she currently has a major home occupation, which was approved by a use permit, the one structure. She also mentioned it's impossible or hard to get building materials at the time. She proposed using these individual containers for her additional self-storage business. They're 8 by 20, so if she gets 10, it'd be a total of 1,600 square feet. There's no water, sewage, or electricity required or proposed. These buildings, these containers will not interfere with any water rights. She said in her past 15 years of experience, current storage facility shows traffic approximately 1 to 2 vehicles per day at the most. There is an existing driveway, and I think we showed that in some of our photographs. Days and hours of operation will be daylight hours every day, and Ms. Kemet said she'll be the only employee, and she lives on site. So she does live on that parcel. The proposed use in terms of building setbacks will not be within 20 feet of a county road right away. No covenants are proposed or existing. No outdoor lights are proposed. This property has no known nonconformities. No nuisances have been reported. I mentioned we did get a response from the Conservation District. Access has been approved by Public Works. And that's from County Road 8BC. I'll just skip things I've already mentioned. Mr. Chairman, in terms of parking, we do have, as you know, we do have a non-residential parking requirement. 1 parking space for each 400 square feet of floor area. This additional floor area would be 1,600 square feet, meaning 4 parking spaces. We feel that parking is adequate. No signs are proposed. Solid waste, should there be any, that can be hauled by a private company. There's no specific criteria for this use. This use is not an overlay district. Commercial storage does require site plan review, but because this total square footage is less than 5,000 square feet and the total use is less than an acre, site plan review is not required, in our opinion. We have some findings and we have 4 conditions that we're recommending. We're happy to answer questions you might have.
So on condition 3, you have, should this ICP expire, is that the standard 1 year, if nothing comes?
Exactly, and should it be approved, obviously, yeah.
It just didn't have a 1 year on it, so got it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that the activity will be during the daytime and no lighting will be, how do you control something like that? Is there a gate that then will be locking the storage units?
Not that, I don't know of any gate, I don't believe there'll be any gate, and I don't believe there's any.
Might be a question for the applicant. Is the applicant here? Yeah.
Yeah. This kid is here.
It's in their contract that it's daylight use only. Yes.
Thank you. Hey, any further questions? This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment? No public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Second. Moving second to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Kemet Commercial Storage as presented, special use permit 218.
Second.
Moving seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
47.
47.
47. Holy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let me turn on full.
We get 5 minutes till the next one. Thank you.
Mhm.
We're in trouble now.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just say. Yeah, it was. This, essentially become other issues.
Start.
What you're saying, or at least in that respect.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a weird spelling.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
Oh, are you gonna see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, maybe we better check for that it's not a weird spelling.
I guess they could spell it. Since it's
I mean, sometimes
they could have spelled it.
Really the way they want it.
C or.
Yeah. Been creating.
Could have been. Well.
All right, I'm gonna open up the public hearing for the Buck Creek Estates Major Subdivision, planning and zoning director, or planner two, Kim Dillon.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a preliminary plat review of this major subdivision. This property is located in the GRP zoning district. The planning area is Cody Powell. We did receive an application for this preliminary plat along with other material on April 30th of this year. And the actual application was received on May 10th. The requested action is approval of what will be a 23 lot major subdivision. Lot sizes vary from just over 4 acres to 8.29 acres. Each will be residential use and possibly agriculture. The location, we have it shown in figure 6. It's essentially located centrally between Cody and Powell. It's on the south side of Highway 14A, and it's about 2.5 miles from the intersection of Highway 294 and 14A, and about 9.5 miles northeast of Cody. Mr. Chairman, you did see the preliminary plat. It's on 5 separate pages. We also have a copy of this preliminary plat on 1 page, but we thought it'd be easier to view when it's on 5 pages because obviously there's a lot of detail here. Notices, this is a public hearing, And so we did put notices in the Cody Enterprise. One was on June 29th and one was on July 13th for this hearing. We did send out a certified mailing to neighboring property owners. That went out on June 24th. We shared this material with all of you and with the public before today's hearing. Agency referrals, of course, this is a subdivision. We're required to notify a list of agencies. We notify others that we think might have an interest. School district Park County District number 1, they were notified. This is in their area. They can provide bus service. Postal Service was notified. They said they can provide mail delivery, and those addresses and mailboxes will be located once new residents are established. Black Hills Energy, they responded. We've shared all these things with you. They do have sufficient volume to meet the needs of this subdivision. Conservation District, they provided a soils report commenting on the soils on this property. We shared that summarization letter with you. Weed Pest, Mary did she found the presence of noxious weeds and did require a long-term weed management plan that has been approved. YDOT, we shared with you their letter. They confirmed that an access from Highway 14A has been permitted. It was an existing field access that was relocated and now been reclassified.
I kind of liked that.
So YDOT approved a moving of an access. It was a field access. It's been moved. Now it's approved as a commercial access. And we shared that with you. DEQ, we did receive information. I'll talk more about that later, but on page 8, we just had a brief discussion with James Ruff. He talked about a sample of water from a nearby well. I will talk more about DEQ in a minute. TCT said that they have wireless service in the area. They can't provide internet and phone to this area. Garland Light and Power, they said they had the capacity to provide electricity. Fire Protection District number 1, we've had several conversations with them. Essentially, they said that they would be able to provide fire protection as long as accesses meet their requirements. Park County Fire District number 2, they also responded, even though this property is not in their district, they recommended or said basically it'd be nice if a cistern would be established for the subdivision. Northwest Rural Water, they responded, basically they have no comments since wells are proposed. The treasurer said taxes are paid in full. Game and Fish responded, they have no wildlife concerns. However, they remain concerned with the number of subdivisions. Park Mountain Irrigation District, they've been contacted. They did receive a water distribution plan that has been approved. Also, Mr. Chairman, that water distribution plan has been approved by the state. And Public Works, they responded. They did a cursory review of the preliminary plat, and we shared that response with you. We have received several public comments. Most of those were verbal public comments. We've only received one written public comment. Most of those public comments occurred in P&Z on February 17th. Essentially, if I may summarize, there were concerns about water issues such as wells and land being taken out of ag production. Mr. Chairman, I'm on the bottom of page 9. In terms of preliminary plat, we did receive a copy of the preliminary plat. We shared it with you. DEQ, since this is a major and the developer is planning to have in-ground septic systems and wells, DEQ was notified and they provided a letter of no adverse recommendation for both domestic water being provided by wells and individual septic systems being provided by in-ground systems on each lot, should this be approved. In terms of access, Access will be from Highway 14A. Again, I talked about YDOT approving that access. Terms of covenants and HOA, we have received draft copies of both the covenants and the bylaws of the HOA. And these are all conditions that have to be met for preliminary plat, things we have to get. I talked about the fact that USPS Postal Service confirmed their ability to provide mail delivery service. Again, Garden Light and Power and Black Hills Energy are the energy providers because this is a major gas, because it's in the area, and electricity has to be made adjacent to each lot. That hasn't occurred yet, but there will be a subdivision improvements agreement that will be required before final plat, should this preliminary plat be approved. In terms of wastewater, this subdivision is not within 400 feet of municipal water system, so municipal water is not allowed. Domestic water, again, it's not within 400 feet of any existing water main, so that really is not an option. However, our conclusion is that wastewater requirements and domestic water requirements have been met because DEQ has provided that no adverse recommendation. In terms of ag impacts, this land is currently in ag production. Obviously, if this is approved, that land will come out of ag production. However, the applicant will be required to follow the requirements of weed and pest. They'll be required to follow the requirements of the Heart Mountain Irrigation District. This development, to our knowledge, is not expected to introduce any pest or litter problems or domestic pet disturbances. And the applicant does plan to have those water rights distributed to each one of the 23 lots. And again, we did receive approval from the state engineer's office. This parcel is located in an ag overlay district. And I know you've heard me say that before, but of course it gives you an opportunity, should you choose to suggest improvements to the subdivision, should you think ag might impact it or it might impact ag in the future. Mr. Chairman, of course, the last group to hear this was P&Z. That occurred on June 16th. They recommended approval. They had a number of conditions that they recommended. One was conditions from DEQ. You had a chance to read those. I won't reiterate those. We have some findings for you to consider, and we have some conditions for you to consider. We're happy to answer any questions also that you might have.
Any questions of staff at this time? Okay, public hearing. We will take public comment. I will ask in the respective time that if you someone's already made a comment that you're in support of, just simply state you're in support of it or against it. And, anyone commenting public needs to address the chair and please state your name for the record. So, any public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Scott Lewis with Trinity Engineering Surveying, representing the applicant. This is a long process. We're hoping we're getting to the end of it, but basically we try to address all the concerns that have been raised. Some of them we can't address, such as, we are developing a subdivision. We are going to take some land out of agricultural use. The last comment that was basically received was related to fire and fire protection. We attended a public meeting. This subdivision is within the fire district number 1, which is in Powell. There was a comment that was provided by fire district number 2 saying that it would be nice to have cisterns. When we attended that meeting, we attended a special meeting with the fire district number 1, and we addressed that. And their basic comment was that cisterns aren't reliable enough for them to count on fire protection, so they stuck with their original letter, which basically said that they didn't require There's been some discussion regarding being so far from, because we have these aerial bombers that spray and, you know, ag land being so far from the land. And my understanding is that we didn't want to impact future owners and future subdivisions with that requirement. We would hope that we'd have a favorable outcome from this meeting and you would vote in our favor. But we would answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to quickly mention one thing. We received a written public comment yesterday. You had a chance to see it. It was basically talking, they were opposed to this, water issues and taking land out of ag.
Okay. Ma'am?
Yes, my name is Alexandra Kirk, and I am the one that filed or presented the document yesterday. As you know from reading the document, this is something that I think is a really important issue. And I firmly believe that we need to do studies to determine what our capacity is for further development within Cody, but especially these massive developments. And once we reach the point where we don't have enough water, there's nothing we can do about it. And we don't really know at this point what our capacity is. We don't know as far as I know, no one has ever done any studies to determine what we need in reserve for fire, what we need in reserve for drought. What's the capacity, the lifespan of the dam because of the silt? These are all really important issues. And I would strongly urge this body to put this off until we have some really firm data in our hands where we can know, is this an appropriate step to take or not? Thank you.
Further public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Spencer George. I'm a local dairy farmer out here on Hart Mountain. So I have some concerns. This is a neighboring farm of ours. We have at this point in time had 3 farms just in the last 3 months. We received notice that we'll be losing those farms due to subdivisions. This is a trend that's really alarming. It's pretty scary for us, our producers that are making a living off this land. But not only that is, as I receive neighbors that move in close to our operation, it complicates the way we do business. Just as we are here going through the legalities of creating a subdivision, I also have to go through the same process to build a new milk barn, a corral, anything like that. And I go through you guys, but I also have to now approve it with my new neighbors. That's a great concern to me. I believe in private property rights, but I also have to defend my livelihood and my private property as well. The other concern that I have a lot of them, but is that as we develop these lands around us, artificially inflates the price of farmland around it. And so it's unsustainable for agriculture to continue to purchase land and continue to grow their operations. And it basically prices us out of the business. It's been stated that the Buck Creek is not a highly productive farm in the previous meetings, but it is. I hope that the owners who've been farming it, they've done really well this year. There's a beautiful haystack there. I keep hoping they're gonna go, you know what, this is worth farming, because it really is. It's a good looking farm. They got a good pile of hay off of that for first cutting. We have a Park County land use plan, and I don't feel like we're even following it. It states on page 98 that we should be developing non-productive or marginal lands, and we should be developing next to the city limits, which in the past we've done really well. You know, down Cooper with Cody, and then on the east side, north side of Powell, they've been able to annex those areas in and utilize them and provide the services needed for subdivisions. When you look at a subdivision out in the country, for one, you're going to put in 23 wells, you're not going to be irrigating it, you'll be sprinkling it, but your water profile starts to fall. I live right there. Every February, my well starts to fail. The water table falls, it becomes difficult to get water. You put 23 homes in a plot like that, guaranteed wells are gonna become an issue. When my grandparents established and settled this place in 1948, they had to drill 200 plus feet to get water. Now we're often 60 feet. And so that's because we're farming it. We're making this the oasis that it is. Another concern I have is that I have a feedlot just to the southwest corner of this place. And through NRCS management plans, the nutrient management, we're supposed to topically apply manure in our fields. I don't need neighbors complaining, and that they're gonna be notified that they live next to this. That doesn't mean I won't be harassed. I won't have to continue to defend myself as I continue to farm. Manure stinks. There's no way around that. It'll bring flies. I have neighbors complain already that I'm baling hay in the middle of the night. I don't need complaints that there's dust. We're applying herbicides, pesticides. This is an ag zone. It's an ag zone for a reason. And that really jeopardizes those who are producers as we try to work around new members living around us. We like good neighbors, but often as we bring people that are not from Wyoming into the area, they don't understand our way of life. Before you know it, we're fighting for easements, we're fighting just to get to our fields. They just don't understand how things work around here.
George, I hate to cut you short,
Yeah.
but we're moving into another public hearing, and I'm gonna have to ask the board what their pleasure is.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm just curious, how much longer are you gonna be?
I go 2 more minutes to be done.
I'm already into another
Yeah,
public
you're
hearing.
right.
We have to,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman, and personally, I've got a number of questions.
Yeah.
So I'll move that we, go ahead and extend the public hearing. We just need a time and a date.
The time of the day, we're gonna have to extend it because there's a lot of concerns on this. We have a time and a date that'll work. Very good.
Let's do it at 11:15 on August 3rd.
We continue the public hearing to August 3rd at 11:15.
Correct.
Moving seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, folks.
Just to indicate, we probably need more time.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna move right into the West Link minor subdivision sketch plan review.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this property is in the GRP zoning district, the planning area is PAL. We did receive an application for this minor subdivision on February 10th, including description, payment, sketch plan, notice of intent to subdivide. The applicant requests approval of what will be a 5-lot minor subdivision. Lot sizes vary from 5.76 acres to 8.86. We have, as I mentioned, we have classified this as a minor subdivision. Location, you can see in figure 2 that this subdivision is located almost a mile south of Powell, and it's just southeast of the end of County Road 9 1/2. And you saw the sketch plan that's in figure 1, again, 5-lot minor subdivision. I did mention this is in the GRP zoning district. The lot sizes as proposed are consistent with that zoning district. Neighboring land uses, you see in figure 3 that this property is surrounded mostly by agricultural uses. However, there are some residential uses and I believe they're subdivisions to, I know, the southeast and the northeast, and I think the southwest. The topical graphical map on figure 4 basically shows this property is flat, and I believe it's currently in irrigated ag land. This is within a mile of the city of Powell, so municipal review is required. We have on page 5 essentially the statute regarding that. We did notify the city of Powell. In a minute, I'll just summarize their comments. I know you had a chance to read them. The notice of intent to subdivide was published in the Powell Tribune on January 26th and February 2nd. This is a public hearing. That notice was in the Powell Tribune on June 29th and July 13th. We mailed the notice to neighbors on June 24th. We notified agencies. We have a list of those we notified and responses we got. Park County 1 responded. This subdivision is in their district. They can provide fire protection. TCT responded. They do have wireless service in the area. They can't provide internet and phone to this location. Northwestern Water had no comments. They saw that wells, private wells are being planned. Park County School District 1 said this is in their district. They can provide service. Rocky Mountain Power, they do have capacity to serve this subdivision. City of Powell responded back in January. They sent us some responses. They talked about easements being labeled. Of course, we will have all easements appropriately shown and addressed on the final plat should this be approved. Also, they talked about the half road on the western edge of the subdivision. However, in further discussion with the city, they noted that likelihood of this property being annexed is very, very low. Whedon Pest, Mary conducted an initial inspection. She found no noxious weeds. However, given the situation, that she will require a long-term weed management plan. MDU responded that they can provide service, gas service to this new subdivision. Public Works responded. They originally had concerns with what was, I believe, a proposed 30-foot access easement. The developer, my understanding, they asked for administrative relief. I believe Public Works said no. It came to all of you, and you approved. I'm trying to think of the wording. I assume you approved that that relief. So my understanding is that a 40-foot right of way now is enough, is sufficient. The Postal Service responded. They said they can provide mail delivery once addresses are decided, mailboxes are placed. Treasurer said property taxes are paid. Game and Fish responded. They don't have specific concerns. Again, they're concerned with the number of subdivisions being proposed. Kyle Clark for Conservation District provide a soils report. Shoshone Irrigation District, they've been sent a water distribution plan, and that plan has been approved. We've not received any public comments. Planning and Zoning reviewed the sketch plan in June of this year. They had conditions that we started on the bottom of page 7 on the staff report. It went over into page 8. Public Works indicated they said they would give us a final response should this go forward. There has been a weed and pest plan sent to Mary for her review and approval. This subdivision is working on an HOA and covenants, and there a subdivision improvements agreement. The applicant is also working on that. And these, of course, are all things that will be required. The SIA, of course, because this subdivision will include a road. There was a pre-application meeting that occurred in January. Title report has been submitted. We do require a homeowners association because that will have to address the common maintenance of that road. Garbage disposal services available through private companies. As I mentioned, Rocky Mountain Power will provide electricity, MDU will provide gas. None of these things have been made adjacent yet, but they will be made adjacent should this subdivision go forward. We have no information regarding any hazards. Mr. Chairman, I do have a note here that said the irrigation plan has been approved by the Shoshone Irrigation District. Wastewater requirements, a subdivision, a subsurface evaluation has been submitted. Perk data came back for 4 lots, perk rates of 20 to 40 minutes per inch were determined. Excavation cuts were done on 3 lots. Depths of at least 10 feet, groundwater was not discovered. Based on that, it looks like that conventional septic systems will likely be adequate. In terms of domestic water, we did receive a water sample from a neighboring well. That well was within a half mile. It's just to the northeast of this proposed subdivision. There was no E. coli or coliform detected. TDS was found at 471. That's below that cutoff of 500. Nitrogen was found at almost 8 milligrams per liter. That's below the cutoff of 10. Arsenic was also determined, but that was below the maximum contamination level. Fluoride and sulfate were detected, but those are secondary requirements. Again, just affecting taste and smell and things like that. In terms of ag impacts, obviously there'll be a reduction in land available for ag use. This land is currently in ag production. However, the applicant will be required to comply with weed and pest. It will be required to comply with the Shoshone Irrigation District. We don't know of any pest or litter problems that will be introduced or pet disturbances to livestock. 5 lots will get water rights. Approximately 1/2 of this parcel is in an ag overlay district. Again, that gives you a chance to make any suggestions should you find that some need to be made. In terms of the water distribution plan, because this is a minor subdivision, no state review is required. This land is not located.
Can you just hit any more?
Yes, I'm done, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. We have findings and we have some conditions that we recommend.
Any questions from staff? Public hearing, do we have any public comments on this? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't come for this, but I also am concerned about seeing agricultural land being taken. And I think before you start passing things like this, you really need to take into consideration what that young man said about water table and how this is going to impact.
But if it's been presented to DEQ and DEQ doesn't have any concerns, that we kind of got to go with what's on current regulation. But I appreciate your comment. Further public comment, we were tight on time.
Basically, we complied with everything. We submitted a name, we submitted the homeowners association. Well, we haven't submitted it yet, but we are working on all those things. By the time it comes back to you, it will all be in compliance.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
I'm Bob Graff. My wife and Linda are owners of the property directly east. It's presently under agriculture. The primary concern that we actually have is a road that's really used for irrigation. And in its historical context here, this road is actually mostly on this farm that's being talked about for subdivision. I've talked to Scott and Mr. Hall, and there's an easement proposed for that road, which to maintain as an agricultural use. But it's kind of a historical context of this. The Edmonds family actually owned Farm Unit G as well. So they're concerned of where a road really stood, on one side of the property line, and the other really wasn't much of a matter. So that's kind of how that got in. But so it's part of the last I saw was a condition in there to have a easement placed in this approval process. We just need to make certain that it's actually shows up in the final approval. So, all right, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Further public comment?
I had a quick question, staff, real quick. On the sketch plan here on lot 3, there's a note on there that says restricted irrigation and ingress and egress easement. Could you explain that?
Commissioner Tilden, we might have left off, unfortunately, the second half of that sketch plan where it explains that note. Yeah, that note 9 talks about an irrigation easement over the east 20 feet of that subdivision. It's for irrigation use, to accommodate a wastewater ditch in favor of the subdivision lot owners, and to provide ingress and egress in favor of the adjoining property owner to the east, with the restricted, basically access for that property for ag purposes only. So that, yeah, I apologize, that missed your packet.
Okay. Anything further?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Move second, close public hearing, further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Another question, staff, are we gonna have enough time, we're gonna have.
Well, we're already into our next public hearing. So, we can wrap this one up with interest.
All right, I just got one quick question. With our, road and bridge department here and their analysis, and there evidently was some question. Has that been resolved yet? And I'm trying to figure out exactly what it was, that, item number 2 on page 8. Applicant shall provide a revised response to our county public works addressing and approving administrative relief on the list of access right of ways. And it says that has not been done yet, but it is forthcoming.
Commissioner Tilden, Mr. Chairman, which page?
Page 8, paragraph 2.
Oh, paragraph 2. You know, my understanding is there's just, I mean, we realize that this board, this body has approved that administrative relief. Our understanding is that Public Works is just going to give us a final summary formal letter. And discussing whatever they need to discuss.
But do we need that to approve today?
No, I don't believe that. It can come, I mean, should you approve today, there will be a final plat.
There's gonna be a final plat for the county. So
Yeah.
For sketch plan, no.
Okay. All I got.
Okay. And motion, desire of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plan review for the Westwood minor subdivision.
Second.
Moving second, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, is it okay to just make a comment to those that are concerned with the land use plan and what we're doing with ag and those kind of things? One thing that the county is getting ready to do is put out an RFP and get started on an updated land use plan. It's been 22 years since that's been looked at. So keep that in mind and please watch for notices. We are going to be doing committee meetings around the county and try to bring in a lot of input. And it will have to do with the ag land, with lot sizes, with uses, with all of that. It's a long process, but we're getting ready to get started again.
We definitely need the public involved.
Absolutely.
All right, open up public hearing on Pheasant Ridge minor subdivision. 3 sketch plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property is in zoning district GRP. The planning area is POW. We did receive the application for this and additional material in May of this year. The applicant requests approval of what will be a 5-lot minor subdivision. 4 lots will be 3.36 acres and 1 lot will be 15.77 acres, all for residential use. And should this be approved, there'll be a remaining parcel that will be created that's about 43.5 acres. We have classified this as a minor subdivision. The location of this, it's located a little over 2 miles straight east of Powell. It's just south of County Lane 9. You see on page 2, the sketch plan. It's in figure 1. The lot sizes as proposed are consistent with the GRP zoning district. In terms of neighboring land uses, predominantly agriculture. There is some residential uses in the area. Also, we didn't mention in this that there are some historic, special use permits and business uses in the area. I will mention, you may remember that the applicant does have an SUP for commercial storage on this property, and that will continue, and it will end up being, should the subdivision be approved, it will be on the remaining parcel. In terms of site characteristics, the topography is relatively flat. Proposed lots 1 through 4 are irrigated cropland. They slope down from the south to the north towards the county road. And proposed lot 5 has an existing residence and some outbuildings. We did send out notices. Notice of intent to subdivide, those were published in May. I'll just say that all of our notice requirements have been met. Agency referrals, we notified a whole list of agencies. We did get responses. I'll try to skip to, I guess, maybe the most important ones. I'll mention MDU gas. They do have gas service available. It's along that county road. They said they can provide gas to each of these lots. Powell Parks for Conservation District, they did provide a soils report and summarization letter. Mary did initiate an initial inspection, found the presence of noxious weeds, said a plan will be required. We've not received that approved plan yet. Rocky Mountain Power, they said they have the capacity to provide electrical service to each of these lots. And I believe that gas is adjacent to each proposed lot and electricity is adjacent to each proposed lot. Of course, that's required because it's a minor. Public Works stated legal access exists, it's to the county road. Game and Fish, they had no concerns. We've not received any public comments. P&Z reviewed this sketch plan in June. You saw they recommended approval. You saw all their conditions. A title report has been submitted. No roads are proposed for this subdivision. The irrigation district has been contacted. They will require a water distribution plan. That's the Shoshone Irrigation District. To our knowledge, they've not approved a plan. Subsurface evaluation, Mr. Chairman, that's all been done. Percolation tests were done on 3 lots. Perk rates vary between 10 and 13 minutes per inch. Also, groundwater expiration cuts were made, some to a depth of 8 feet, one to a depth of 10. And groundwater was not discovered. Based on that, it appears that, should this be approved, conventional systems will be adequate. Domestic water, a water sample was collected from a well in the vicinity. It's just to the southeast of this proposed subdivision. No E. coli or coliform was detected. TDS was discovered at 888. That's above 500, but again, that's just aesthetic effects, or that provides aesthetic effects. Nitrogen was discovered just below the maximum contamination level. Chloride and sulfate were also discovered, but those are secondary. They have secondary effects. Ag impacts, of course, there will be a reduction in land available, but as I've mentioned before, with other subdivisions, this subdivision is not expected to impact negatively neighboring ag uses. This land, however, is not located in an ag overlay district. Water rights, again, I mentioned that a plan has been sent to the Shoshone Irrigation District. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, they've been notified. We don't know if a plan has been sent to them. And Mr. Chairman, we have some findings and we have some recommended conditions. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions, staff? Seeing no, it's a public hearing. Do we have any public comment on this subdivision? Seeing no.
Move to close the public hearing.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in
sketch plan review for the Pleasant Ridge minor subdivision.
Okay, move. Second. Move and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
That easy.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
All right.
Also,
Yeah. Next up is not a public hearing, it's the Country Roads minor subdivision final plat review. Take it away, Kim.
All right, thank you,
You're on the
Mr.
roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Heck of a job today.
So this is final plat review. This is a minor subdivision, a proposed minor subdivision. The property is located in the GRP zoning district. The planning area is Cody Powell rule. We did receive the final plat application on June 25th of this year. A revised final plat was then received on July 9th. This will be a 3-lot minor subdivision. 2 lots will be 5 acres. 1 lot will be 6.84 acres. All will be for residential use. As I mentioned, we did classify this as a minor because it is 3 lots. You see the final plat on page 2 in figure 1. Location, this is approximately 5 miles southwest of Ralston, about 2.5 miles northwest of the intersection of 14A. Oh, I'm sorry, it's about 2.5 miles northwest of Highway 14A, and it's right on the west side of County Road 19. The property does have an address of Road 19. In terms of neighboring land use, a lot of the neighboring land use, as you can see in figure 3, is agriculture. There is some residential uses nearby, and there are some subdivisions not too far away. In terms of site characteristics, this property is fairly level. There is a gentle slope west to east. Currently, it's irrigated ag land. However, there is a brand new residence that is located on proposed lot 3. In terms of municipal review, it's not within a mile of any municipalities. That's not required. Public notice or public hearing notice is not required for final plat review. We've not received any public comments. I will mention though that during P&Z sketch plan hearing, there were some public comments. I know some of those comments, just so you know, talked about the possibility of drains under this property. I remember that. Hart Mountain told us that there were no underground drains on this property. All of you reviewed the sketch plan on June 15th of this year. You approved, had a list of conditions. Number 2 was that a adequate water analysis from a water well in the area needed to be provided. That condition still has not been met. You might remember originally there was a water sample that was provided. However, they couldn't test for coliform because it was frozen. The next water sample tested positive for coliform. To our knowledge, a new sample has not been created. So, I guess we recommend one of 2 things. Either that a notice that a water sample was not provided, or a water test analysis showed the presence of coliform. I guess that's the condition we recommend, that note being on the final plat. Otherwise, the conditions have been met. Plat review committee met on July 1st to go over this final plat. We have some findings, and again, we have 2 conditions. And again, one condition we recommend is the note on the final plat talking about water test analysis showing the presence of coliform. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Question? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve, and include the conditions recommended by staff 1 and 2.
well, there's 6 conditions. Oh,
Yeah.
Those,
Yeah, just the 2
All right,
conditions.
conditions, all right.
Second.
Moving seconded. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
50. Number 50.
You missed one, Kim.
Thank you, Colleen.
We have to take one out of the plan.
Yep, I get you. All right. Thank you, commissioners.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Patty did a great job today.
Okay. Next up, we have approved some of the American Rescue Plan projects. We have, we received the American Recovery Plan funding. It's looking like we're gonna receive a total of, according to the latest map update, 5.7 million. We have 2.6 in the bank, or
At this point, we're trying to get into the system, so we have a delay of 4 days. We did the submission on Monday, Barb and I did, we submitted everything, so we have to wait 4 days, then they'll verify with us, then we'll be able to see what's exactly.
okay. But we had several projects that were presented in a work session the other day, and we've got those in front of us. One is a Homeland Security. Jack had several items on it to improve the CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, supplies. We got a telephone system that Mr. Connors has been wanting to upgrade, or remind me again where this telephone system is gonna drop in. Is it for this?
It's for the whole county,
Whole county, okay.
all county offices, so. One centralized system to replace what we've got that's going on 20+ years old in most places, so.
Portable radios for the sheriff's department. Unbelievable, but those radios come in at the tune of over $8,000 a piece. We could get something cheaper at Walmart, but he didn't seem to think so. We've got some collaboration equipment from the IT department and buildings and grounds touchless water fountains. The one good thing we heard this morning was that on the radios that they are gonna, due to a bulk purchase from DOT that we're able to sign on to, it sounds like the cost on those could come in less. That's good to hear. So that's what we got in front of us.
Just curious, Mike, would you elaborate just for the press's sake, I guess, item number 4, the IT collaboration equipment?
Certainly, that's actually a holdover from the original COVID funding that we were trying to draw down on. It's collaboration equipment. In essence, they were some surface hubs to interconnect all of the offices around the county here. And the unfortunate thing that happened back then was that they put such a tight timeline on it that the equipment couldn't be acquired before the time to purchase it ran out. So what we did is we turned around the items that we couldn't get because of that. In fact, I'm still not certain we're gonna be able to get them because they're still on back order. But if we can, it'd be nice to get them done. And the whole idea was to try and take care of that project that we couldn't get taken care of before, when funds stopped coming before we spend them. That makes sense.
As you recall, last meeting, we approved 2 requests one from Code Regional Health, one from Powell Valley Healthcare for the ambulances and the infrastructure for that. So we're moving forward. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the following items for the American Rescue Plan projects. Homeland Security project in the amount of not to exceed $167,852.15. The telephone system not to exceed $225,000. The portable radios not to exceed $265,860.60. And IT collaborative equipment for $121,086.50, not to exceed. And buildings and grounds on the water fountains not to exceed $36,000.
Thanks.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, appreciate it.
other roadblocks that you run into with getting on the website?
On into the US Treasury to set that up. It was very detailed and, fortunately, she doesn't have PDF Pro, so we had to go back and forth, but we got it figured out. We got the submission, we got it emailed out from the Treasury Department, saying there's a 4-day lag before we can get into the system and start pulling the funds, so. But other than that.
I'm glad you guys got it figured out.
It took us a while, but poor Susan ran upstairs several times. She got her steps in because I don't have the right system. We should have just done it on her computer.
I'll be coordinating with other counties too, let them know maybe some problems or issues that we're running into, or maybe pass the word on to Jeremiah.
I
and say,
haven't.
Here's what we ran into.
I haven't, there wasn't any problems, it was just getting the stuff uploaded, so that was the only problems we had to get.
Yes.
Information uploaded.
Scott, on the WCCA call last week, the other counties indicated that things are moving forward pretty smoothly. People have relaxed a little bit from watching the steps, and it seems to be working.
Good.
Picture this.
You're taking a picture of the back of the screen.
Yeah.
I think there's something nefarious going on back there.
What's it you're buying, right?
I just sent an email, but you can be on his door.
Will that be on the Wyoming News website then? CJ?
Yeah,
of course. Now that you're one of their ghostwriters? Yeah.
Are you now? His application's in there, so.
They turned me down.
Did you do any?
Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Don't move.
Moving second to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
This thing all.
Bill, CJ,
I have
I
no
don't
idea.
anticipate anything on this one.
I need to figure that out, though.
No guarees, but I do not
I have no
anticipate.
idea.
It's an information.
Won't schedule my day to get through, but it looks like we're still on side.
Remember when she said that video thing? Where was it? Up there?
Yeah, see, it's got a tag through it.
It says
so-
there that it's on then? Oh,
Is it off or no?
That is IT. That's IT.
Close everything.
Their microphone is off.
Oh, okay.
And